The notification came through at 11:47 at night. I was already in bed, half asleep. My phone was on the nightstand and the screen lit up with a transaction alert from my bank. I reached for it, automatically the way you do when your phone lights up in the dark and your body responds before your mind catches up. The charge was $11,240 to a resort 3 hours from our city. I sat up. Kevin was asleep beside me. His breathing was slow and even. I looked at him for a moment. Then I looked at the transaction alert again. $11,240. A resort booking. Made at 11:32 at night. From my credit card. The card that lived in my wallet in my bag on the chair by the bedroom door. My bag had not left that room all evening. I got out of bed quietly. I took my bag to the bathroom and closed the door behind me. I sat on the edge of the bathtub in the dark for a second before I turned the light on. Then I opened my wallet. My card was there, exactly where it always was, between my library card and my work ID, undisturbed, untouched. I sat on the edge of that bathtub for a long time. My name is Nicole. I am 30 years old. Kevin and I met 6 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday dinner. He was late. He arrived apologizing to everyone in the room, individually, which I found both embarrassing and endearing in equal measure. We dated for 3 years, got engaged, got married 2 years, ago in a small ceremony with 40 people and a cake that was slightly too sweet and dancing that went on, longer than anyone planned. I had been happy in that marriage. I want to be clear about that. Not performing happiness, actually happy. Kevin was a good man in the ways that counted day 2. Day, reliable, consistent, present. He made me coffee before I asked for it. He remembered the names of my colleagues and asked about them by name. He was the kind of husband that made you feel chosen every ordinary morning. His parents were a different matter. Robert and Gloria lived 40 minutes away. They were warm in the way that certain people are warm and thoroughly and completely on the surface with something underneath that you could not quite name. Gloria especially. She called twice a week. She organized family dinners with the enthusiasm of someone running an event rather than a family. She had opinions about everything in our life that she delivered as observations rather than judgments, so that objecting to them felt like overreacting. I had never fully trusted her. I had never said that to Kevin. I had given Gloria my card details once, 14 months ago, the week after our wedding. We had been organizing a joint family dinner and Gloria had offered to book the restaurant. I had given her the number over the phone because Kevin was at work, and it was easier than transferring money and waiting for a confirmation and going back and forth. She booked the restaurant. Ms. Nicole, she said, I need to ask you something directly. Have you shared your card details with anyone at any point? Once, I said, 14 months ago, my mother-in-law, to book a restaurant. She was quiet again, longer this time. I want you to stay on the line with me, she said. I need to pull some additional records on this account. I stayed on the line. I looked out the kitchen window at the garden. The morning was gray and still. A bird was sitting on the fence at the back, just sitting there, not moving. I watched it while I waited. Sandra came back 8 minutes later. The resort booking was made from a device we have flagged in connection with several of the smaller transactions on your account, she said carefully. This device is not your registered device. It has been used in connection with your account on multiple occasions going back to the beginning of the transaction pattern you identified. Whose device is it? I said. We cannot confirm ownership directly, she said. But the IP address associated with the transactions is registered to a residential address. I can give you the general area. She gave me the area. It was the suburb where Robert and Gloria lived. I looked at the bird on the fence. It was still there, still not moving. I see, I said. I want to flag this formally as fraud and begin an investigation, she said. In the meantime, I am freezing the card and issuing a replacement. The investigation will produce device, records and transaction, logs that will be comprehensive. Do you want to proceed? Yes, I said. Please proceed. I hung up. I sat at the kitchen table for 20 minutes after that call. The coffee was completely cold. The bird had gone from the fence. The garden was empty and gray and quiet. I thought about the restaurant booking, the dinner, Gloria's speech about welcoming me to the family. I thought about 2 years of Sunday dinners and twice weekly calls and opinions delivered as observations. I thought about the warmth that had always felt slightly calculated. I thought about $34,000. Kevin came downstairs at 7:30. He kissed the top of my head the way he did every morning. He poured himself coffee. He sat across from me and reached for his phone. I waited until he looked up. Did you know? I said. He looked at me properly then. Something shifted in his face. About the card, I said. Your parents have been using my credit card for 14 months. The resort booking last night was $11,000. I have just been through every statement. The total is $34,240. The bank fraud team have already traced the transactions to a device at your parents' address. Kevin put his coffee down. His face went through several things in quick succession. I watched all of them. Surprise was there, but it was not the first thing. The first thing was something closer to recognition. I paid the bill when it came through. The dinner happened. It was pleasant. The food was good. Gloria made a speech about welcoming me to the family that made Kevin's aunt cry. I thought nothing more about the card details after that evening. I thought nothing more about them for 14 months. I went back to bed that night after sitting in the bathroom. I lay in the dark beside Kevin and I looked at the ceiling. And I thought about $11,000 charged to my card at 11:32 at night for a resort booking I had not made. I thought about my card sitting undisturbed in my wallet. I thought about who else had those numbers. I did not sleep again that night. The next morning, I called the bank before Kevin woke up. I went downstairs quietly. I made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table in the early morning, quiet, and I opened my full transaction history on the banking app while I waited for the fraud line to connect. I had not looked closely at my statements in several months. I paid the balance automatically each month, and I trusted the amounts because the amounts had never given me reason not to trust them. I trusted them the way you trust a floor to hold you, without thinking about it, because it always has. I looked now. The charges went back to the month after our wedding, October, 2 years ago. Small ones first. $62 to an online homeware store I had never used. $45 to a fuel station in a suburb I had never driven through. $108 to a grocery chain on the other side of the city. Never large enough to trigger a review. Never frequent enough to form an obvious pattern on a casual glance. But there, consistently there. Every 3 to 4 weeks without fail for 14 months. I opened a notes app. I started listing them one by one. The coffee went cold beside me. By the time the fraud line answered, I had counted 31 separate charges I did not recognize. The total before the resort booking was $23,011. Add the resort booking, $34,240. I sat with that number, $34,000, charged in careful increments over 14 months, sized deliberately to stay below the threshold that would trigger an automatic review, spaced deliberately to avoid a visible pattern on a monthly statement. This was not accidental. This was designed. The fraud officer's name was Sandra Reeves. She had a direct, calm voice, the kind of voice that has heard everything and remains steady regardless. She asked me to confirm my identity, and then she asked me to describe when I had first noticed the issue. Last night, I said. But looking back through my statements, I think it started 14 months ago. She pulled up my account. She was quiet for a moment that lasted long, enough to tell me she was seeing something significant. Like a person hearing news they had been half expecting for a long time. I noticed that. Kevin, I said. Did you know? He looked at the table. I knew my mom had used it a few times. He said, she mentioned she still had the details from the restaurant booking. She said it was temporary, that she would sort it out. I thought it was small things. I did not know it was. He stopped talking. $34,000, I said. I did not know the amount, he said quietly. But you knew it was happening, I said. He did not answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know about the past 14 months. I stood up. I have reported it to the bank as fraud, I said. There is a formal investigation underway. I need you to tell me everything. You know right now? Everything. Because this is proceeding regardless of what you tell me. The only question is whether you are on my side of it or your parents' side of it. He told me everything. Gloria had kept my card details after the restaurant booking. She had started using them within 3 weeks. Small amounts first. She had told Kevin early on that she had borrowed the card once for something urgent and would pay it back. Kevin had not told me because he had not wanted to cause conflict in our first months of marriage. When the charges continued, Gloria had told him it was temporary cash flow, that they were sorting it, that it would stop soon. It never stopped. The cash flow issue was a property purchase. Robert and Gloria had been trying to buy a holiday home for 2 years. They had been consistently short on the deposit. The charges on my card had been filling the gap month by month. The resort booking was a celebration. They had believed the property purchase had finally cleared that week. They had celebrated with $34,000 of my money. I called Patricia Holloway that afternoon, a lawyer who handled financial disputes. I had used her firm for a contract matter 2 years before. I trusted her. She listened to everything without interrupting. She said the case was clear. Unauthorized use of financial details obtained under false pretenses. 14 months of documented transactions. A deliberate pattern of concealment. The bank investigation would produce device records, sufficient for both a civil claim and a criminal. Referral if I chose to pursue one. I want full repayment, I said, and a formal acknowledgement. Everything documented. She said she would have the filing ready within 2 weeks. I told Kevin that evening. I told him the case was proceeding. I told him he had a choice to make about where he stood. He stood beside me. I watched him call his parents that same evening. I sat across the room while he explained what was happening. I watched his face while he listened to whatever his father said. I saw his jaw tighten once. I saw him close his eyes briefly in the way he did. When he was holding something difficult. When he hung up, he looked at me. They said it was family money. He said that what is mine is theirs. I looked at him for a moment. Your parents' savings are family money. I said, my credit card is not. He nodded. The civil case settled 4 months later. Full repayment of $34,240 with interest. Legal costs covered by Robert and Gloria. A formal written acknowledgement of the unauthorized use signed by both of them. The property purchase fell through. Without the deposit funds they had been slowly accumulating, the financing did not hold. The holiday home they had been working toward for 2 years did not happen. Gloria called me once after the settlement, 3 weeks after the papers were signed. Her voice had lost the warmth it usually carried. What was left underneath was something harder and more honest. I hope we can eventually put this behind us, she said. I thought about $11,000, charged to my card while I was asleep 3 feet away from her son. I think that will take considerable time, I said. I hung up. Kevin and I went to counseling. It was slow and not linear and harder than either of us expected. There were sessions where I looked at him across the room and thought about the morning I had asked, "Did you know?" and the silence that had followed, and I had to decide again whether I believed the man in front of me was someone I could stay with. I decided yes. Not quickly, not easily, but yes. We are still working on it. My statements get checked every week now. Every transaction, every line. I know every charge before the month ends. I know the name of every merchant. I know the amount down to the cent. Sandra Reeves from the bank fraud department sent a follow-up letter after the investigation closed. Standard procedure. A confirmation that the case was resolved and the account secured. I kept it in a folder, not as a reminder of what happened, as a reminder of the question that started everything. Have you shared your card details with anyone? One question, the right question, asked by the right person at the right moment. Sometimes that is genuinely all it takes. If stories like this speak to you, hit subscribe. A new one comes every day. $34,000, 14 months, 31 transactions, each one sized carefully to stay invisible. They almost worked. Almost is not enough. If this story stayed with you, hit subscribe. There is a new one waiting for you tomorrow.